Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
The Saratoga City Council meeting, an inside look at the decisions that affect you and our community.
Oh, 6:55. Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday night, August 17, 7 p.m. It is now 6:55, and we will start our meeting with 2 public hearings this evening. The first public hearing is on the 2022 to 2027 capital program and budget. The first item on my agenda has a link to the proposed program and budget, which is on the website. It has also been emailed to the council deputies and the city clerk. If anyone is here to speak about the capital program, please step forward, give us your name and town where you live. And if you have any comments on the public, on the capital program and budget, please step to the microphone at this time. So I'm going to ask, let me see, Vince, can you do me a favor and see if there's anybody in the hall that wants to comment on the capital program and budget? Thank you. What can you shut this?
He's going to
door?
put headphones
Okay.
on. Just make sure
Oh, there's nobody out there? Okay. Okay, great. Then we will continue on to our second public hearing, and this is...
They're down in the hallway. They're not out here. They're down in the entryway. In the hallway.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll wait one moment. Just on the capital program, Vince.
Bless you.
Can you do this? Can you go up? Nobody there, Vince? Okay, thank you. Are you closing this tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to, once you tell me.
Okay, so it seems like we have no one for the capital program and budget, so we'll move on to our second public hearing, Saratoga Regional YMCA Zoning Text Amendment. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. We will be closing this evening. This relates to the zoning text amendment for the YMCA. We will also be doing a short form Part 2 seeker this evening on this.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak on the Saratoga Regional YMCA zoning text amendment, please step forward, state your name and the city that you live in. There's nobody out there for the YMCA. Okay, so we will be closing that, and we'll move on to our meeting. Roll call, please.
I'm present.
Present.
Here.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is our public comment period. I ask that you keep your comments brief, up to 2 minutes. Yielding your time to someone is not allowed. Public comment period will be for 15 minutes. Please be respectful and address the council as a whole. As a reminder, this is not a dialogue or discussion. The council members, however, have the opportunity to respond at the end. I would also like to ask if you can public comment and maybe step outside, because we have other people that want to come in and public comment. So if not, then I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So at this time, please, if you want a public comment, come to the mic, state your name and address. Nobody here for public comment?
There are outside.
Okay, can we go get those people? Nobody here is for public comment. Okay, so can you start? I want everybody to just jump in here.
Samira Sangari, Clifton Park. I'm going to talk about a statement that was made here by Robin Dalton a few meetings ago when saying we, as in Black Lives Matter Saratoga, put a show on by putting tactical gear on in Congress Park and wait till the dark to march. I feel it is extremely hard to have productive dialogue when untrue statements are made. I honestly would love to feel safe enough in the country, in the county, in the town I live in to speak about injustice and not to worry about violence being directed towards me and my comrades. Saying we put on a show is making light of the danger that some here have put us in. When all we have on is bulletproof vests to protect ourselves from not just the police, but from antagonizers that seek to cause us harm. Putting on a show is police lining up with their riot gear and billy clubs like we're in the 60s and we're animals and we're to be treated as such. Putting on a show is calling an anti-mine vehicle in where police officers play dress up like they're going to war. Less than a week after the statement from Dalton and Catone, that Saratoga Black Lives Matter activists are responsible for the uptick of violence, which, by the way, we never received an apology for, I started receiving hate mail to my home address. I still receive mail to this day, as well as other black women involved in BLM. Our safety is not a joke. A few nights ago, there was a fight on Caroline Street, the same street where a brawl occurred a month ago that Catone and Dalton had a press conference for that they blamed on us. As a result of this fight, caused by two white men, someone died. There was no press conference about this. Why is this? If someone in my community dies as a result of nightlife and violence, I would certainly want to know. We want to feel safe when we are in public and when we are in home. But the truth is, this is a result of us being dehumanized by the community and public officials, a result of lies being spread during press conferences. You need to understand that we are not safe anywhere, and we will not stop speaking until everyone is safe and we have justice for Dale Mount.
Anyone else? Is there anybody in the hallway? Okay. We have one person. Okay, so can you ask them to come in, please?
I'll talk fast. I'm Angela Kaufman. I live on stolen land in Saratoga, and I'm here on behalf of the People's Voice Independent Media today. I missed the last meeting. At the one before that, there was discussion again about the idea of mediation, which has been on the table from the community for quite some time. And I just want to share my hope, or our hope at the People's Voice, is that the process will reflect as much on a good faith attempt at healing and unity and change as the words that are spoken in whatever events eventually take place. I've heard that there was some talk about a mediator being chosen for the community, and I'd like to remind folks that as part of the art of negotiation, mediation is about two sides or various sides finding healing. We believe that one representative from the interests of the city and one representative from the interests of the activists, Black Lives Matter / the community as one large umbrella, should be part of a meeting in which various CVs or credentials of proposed mediators are reviewed. We believe that the stakeholders involved should aim to choose a mediator who is sufficiently neutral, as nobody can be completely neutral, but who is also rational enough to provide all stakeholders with appropriate feedback, taking into consideration the social and power dynamics historically and currently present in this community. We invite this honest conversation. We look forward to it. And we would also like to invite an honest conversation between the People's Voice and the city officials at some point. We're basically opening that door. I did not get a chance to type up a letter and print it today, but I can leave my contact information, as we would really like to meet with you. We believe that mediation is not an event, but it is a process, especially under the current circumstances. So this is not going to be one conversation that solves everything, but several conversations that can start to create a foundation for even a mediation session to happen and be productive. So thank you.
Can I just ask, you're not leaving, right? Okay, thank you.
Is there someone else in the hallway? Okay, thank you.
Let's see, John Kaufman, Saratoga Springs, New York, 44 White Street. I wanted to acknowledge the enormous effort of the mayor's team in working on the UDO. It was really underfunded, and that resulted in quite a burden for the staff trying to deal with it. And I really appreciate that. And I also want to acknowledge what I see as all the council's concern about maintaining the charm of this city, that this council is dedicated to that. Having said that, I see the UDO as a tremendous opportunity to address the Southern Gateway that has languished as an eyesore for decades. On the other hand, when I look at the Homewood Suites, I am worried that the city was unable to protect this property by somehow requiring them to design the interface where it faces 9. If the city was to end up with designs as bad as Homewood's all on the Gateway, it would look worse than it does now. While I would regret that the loss of RR when you rezone the Gateway, on the other hand, to the extent that we can really make it a beautiful place, the loss of some RR land is not a particular concern to me. Nor am I that worried about uses. Fundamentally, what I'm worried about is where are the standards? And that's what concerns me, because I'm worried that rather than taking this opportunity to have a wonderful gateway, if we don't figure out how to define it in such a way that what people build, whatever faces Route 9, is an eyesore, as I would say the Homewood Suite is, that would be most unfortunate.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, if I asked before, I'd really like everybody to come up. Is there anybody else for public comment? It just gives me a ballpark feel. Anybody else? Okay, so I have one person. Anybody over here for public comment? Okay, so 2. Thank you. Go ahead.
Alexis Figueroa, Saratoga Springs. On the contrary, that was what just said. I think Saratoga is very beautiful. Just the way it is, looks very beautiful. What we can do is deal with the real violence that has been going on in the city and has been going on in the city for years now. As was stated before, murder just occurred. It's a big deal. We don't believe in any violence between anybody being killed, whether white, whether black. But what we did see was Catone say what he said, and we had another commissioner say what they said, and nothing's been said about that or nothing against it, what they said. And this is a clear indication that this is what they said is not true. What we seen in 2013, I believe, is another murder that happened around Caroline Street in front of the bars as well. It was another brawl fight. It wasn't a gang assault. It was 2 brothers who like to fight people who beat somebody up, beat them to death. as he was trying to intervene peacefully into the fight. We also see that there's a influx in police officers here, right? They did not stop that murder that happened. How many feet away from the police station? Not that many feet at all. So that just shows you that you can have as many police officers as you want, and still crime is going to happen, and murder is going to happen, and violence is going to happen. We have to figure out as a city and come together on what are the solutions are to make the city better and not have these type of things happen. I have kids that live here. I don't feel safe. My kids going downtown on Broadway when there's people that are running around beating people to death. Doesn't seem good, and it doesn't seem good for our town either. So we should really be worried about these type of things than worry about people that are fighting for justice and fighting for social justice and fighting for equal rights for everyone. We should be actually with those people. We should be with those people. And the most American people are the people who will question America's realness and about what America is really about. I'm always going to question America because I'm American. And if America's not working for me or working the way it's supposed to work or the way America is supposed to be, then I'm going to question it. If Saratoga Springs is not working the way it's supposed to be, I'm going to question it. SSPD is not working the way it's supposed to be, question it. When I said before about not having a mediation, we would never have had to have mediation in Saratoga Springs had there been an investigation into Daryl Mount's death, as was supposed to. Had Veach not lied,
Thank you.
we would have had what we needed.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrew Beatty, 21 Michael Drive. I just want to kind of echo the comment that was made to start us off. It seems to me that it's a big shame that it seems like we have tons and tons of resources to put together a bunch of emergency press conferences related to, people exercising the First Amendment right in our city. But then we have somebody killed in our street, not too far away from this city hall. And, it's like it's a regular day almost. It goes up in the police blotter and that's it. That for me really left me dismayed. And because of this, I actually went and looked into some of the previous police chiefs' reports going back to 2012. And I noticed very conspicuously around 2014, our aggravated assaults almost double and remain that way going forward. And I just wanted to ask, what happened? Are people aware of this? Are we just collecting statistics? And did we change the way we're collecting statistics? Did the laws change? Or did we do something? Is this, I'd like to know, is this being studied? Is this being looked at? Are people aware of this trend? Because it was a really stark difference. We went from, 15 aggravated assaults a year to 35, 40. And that seems concerning and also not something I see being talked about a lot. So my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Alexis Brown, Saratoga Springs. I'm just going to read a little excerpt from Where Do We Go From Here? KS Our Community by MLK Jr. If 100,000 Negroes marched in a major city to a strategic location, they will make municipal operations difficult to conduct. They will exceed the capacity of even the most reckless local government to use force against them, and they will repeat this action daily if necessary. Without warning, persons or property, they can draw as much attention to their grievances as the outbreak at Watts, and they will have asserted their unwavering determination while retaining their dignity and discipline. But on the other hand, it cannot be taken for granted that Negroes will adhere to nonviolence under any and all conditions. When there is a rock-like, sophisticated manipulation that mocks the empty-handed petitioner, rage replaces reason. Nonviolence is a powerful demand for reason and justice. If it is rudely rebuked, it is not transformed into resignation and passivity. Southern segregationists in many places yielded to it because they realized that the alternatives would be intolerable. Northern white leadership has relied too much on tokens and substitutes and on Negro patience. At the end of the road, the end of this road is clearly in sight. The cohesive, potentially explosive Negro community in the North has a short fuse and a long train of abuses. Those who argue that it is hazardous to give warnings lest the expression of apprehension lead to violence are in error. Violence has already been practiced too often, and always becomes when remedies are postponed. It is understandable that the white community should fear the outbreak of riots. If they are indefensible as weapons of struggle, and Negroes must sympathize with whites who feel menaced by them. Indeed, Negroes themselves are no less menaced, and those living in the ghettos always suffer most directly from the destructive turbulence of a riot. Yet the average white person also has a responsibility. He has to resist the impulse to seize upon the rioter as the exclusive villain. He has to rise up with indignation against his own municipal, state, and national governments to
we have somebody else out in the hall. Yep.
Hi, Anthony Brown Davis, Albany. So my question is, we was having a Black August event last weekend, and some of your residents was yelling, "America and all niggers." So we want to know if that's going to be addressed. I mean, oh, Robin's not here. Funny coincidence. I mean, she was there last weekend, and she overheard it, and I think that she was in cahoots with whoever was out there calling people niggers. So, man, I want to know who can y'all address that with her?
It's not a dialogue, sir. It's a comment period. Thank you. Anyone else in the hall? Is there anybody else in the hallway? Okay, great. Any comments from the council?
I had one for Angela. Is she in the hallway? That would be great.
Please.
Thank you. Hi. So, Angela, I believe you did send me a letter, certified mail, and I apologize. I got caught up in my front office, but I am in possession of that and do plan to be reaching out to you.
I just want to make sure, because there's an email for the People's Voice, which we will get, but I can give you my email, and it might be a little quicker if that's...
I can have my deputy step out and get your contact information. And thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Then we will close public comment period and we'll move on to our agenda. Are there any edits or changes to the consent agenda? I move that the City Council approve the consent agenda as included with this agenda. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. On to the Mayor's Department. My first item is an announcement. Proposed 2022 to 2027 capital program. This item is to bring to the attention to the 2022-2027 proposed capital program and budget, which can be found on the city website at the link on this agenda. The proposed program and budget have also been emailed to the council deputies and clerk. On September 7th, we will have a brief presentation, close the public hearing, and the council will vote. My next item is implementation of the Independent Advisory Committee, New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan Update. I have Jason Golub here along with Kim Galvin, and I don't know who's going to start, but choose. All right, thank you. Jason will start.
So the goal of...
Can you pull the microphone up to your... Thank you.
So the goal of this session, the next few minutes, is to start the process of getting the city council members and the public educated, for lack of a better word, about what some other cities are doing in the CRB space. So we're not talking about CRB as an abstraction, as something that the citizens want, but city council doesn't really understand what it would look like to implement. The goal over the next few months is to arm you with enough factual support to get a CRB stood up. Whether you do that or not is ultimately up to you.
What I'm going to do today is walk through two cities, Ithaca, New York, and Salt Lake City, Utah, both of whom have had CRBs for a long time. They've had CRBs for about 20 years, so they're not reactive CRBs. And I think there's value in looking at cities that have had CRBs for 15, 20 years and that aren't responsive to what's gone on in the last year. They're also good examples because they evidence success of a CRB. We've seen lots of failures in the CRB space. Both these cities that are very different. One is kind of an apples to apples example of, similar to Saratoga Springs. The other very different, but both have found success with their CRBs as a partner with both the community and the police, and to advance transparency. So that's really all I'm going to do today, is to walk through the nuts and bolts of both of those cities, and I'm happy to answer questions from anyone. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the goal here is, as part of our due diligence as a city, is to look at other cities that have developed CRBs, learn what we can from those cities, take what we can, and develop something that works for our city, or doesn't work for our city. That, again, is ultimately up to you. Next slide, please. So Ithaca, New York. Ithaca, to me, is very much an apples-to-apples comparison with Saratoga Springs. It's a small city. It's a predominantly white city in terms of its demographics. It has a common council form of government, which is not exactly like the city council, but it's similar to the city council, and it has a relatively low crime rate. It's 15.7, and Saratoga Springs, for comparison, is 15.4. So in terms of cities that are similar to Saratoga Springs, I think it's a relatively good example. Next slide, please. So in terms of the nuts and bolts of their police review board, it was developed in 1996. It has 10 members, 8 of which are adults, 1 chair, and 1 youth commissioner. The adult commissioners are 18 or older. The youth commissioner will be 16. They serve for 3 years. Next slide, please. In terms of their overall mandate, they have 2 specific mandates. Overall, their goal is to actively foster positive communications between the police and all segments of the community. So their first mandate is kind of proactive and positive, is when the community feels there's an appreciation for something the police department has done, they can contact the police review board and let them know. And the CRB will pass that on to the police department and make sure that the police officers are aware that they are, in fact, doing a good job in the community. The second is it's a way for the community to file a formal complaint against the police department for work that's gone on in the line of duty. And so the CRB can look at any kind of issue that involves police conduct, whether it is use of force or not. Next slide, please. But in terms of what their mandate is, they by definition, they look at all use of force cases. So if there's ever a use of force case involving the police and the community, it is automatically looked at by the CRB. The CRB has discretion to look at any other types of cases. So if I bring a complaint to the CRB and say, XYZ officer, let his dog poop on my yard, right? The CRB doesn't have to look at that. They can, but they cannot. They have the discretion to do it. So in terms of the overall scope, they're a recommending body. Okay, so they don't have subpoena power. They don't have any power to discipline officers. They're an advisory, recommendation-only board that works closely with the community and the police. And so they can recommend rules. They can recommend bylaws, regulations. They put out an annual report of the work they've done. All of their investigations are transparent, regardless of the findings. So if they find the police officer has done something wrong, it's reported and the public knows. If they find the police officer has not and they've decided nothing should be done, that is also transparent. There's full transparency of everything they do for the community. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, Ithaca does not have subpoena power, and in 2015, some of the members of the Police Review Board were asked about whether they thought subpoena power was necessary to do their job. And so I included their quotes. We haven't been denied access to anything under this administration. They have easy access to officers and information about incidents when they're investigating a case. The second person said, subpoena power would be unnecessary in Ithaca. I think I've gotten all the information I need on the cases I've worked. So I guess the point here is I know subpoena power is a contentious issue. I get the sense that if we were to push for a CRB with subpoena power, that the police unions would fight that, and that we would end up in a 2 or 3 year battle over whether or not we could stand up a CRB. So here's an example of a city that has stood one up without subpoena power and that has proved relatively successful. So at least in the first instance, I think there's real value in standing one up, independent of subpoena power, and frankly, both these cities, neither of these cities have subpoena power. So anyway, that's food for thought. Next slide, please. During the Police Reform Task Force, there was the suggestion that the CRB protects civilians and police. And the more people I talked to about this, the more that I found that is the case. And an example came from Ithaca earlier this year, where there were protests, not unlike the protests we've seen here, and then there were civilian complaints brought against certain police officers for their actions around those protests. And the Civilian Review Board reviewed those. Now, let me be clear. They're still reviewing certain elements of those around the use of pepper spray. But as it relates to 2 specific incidents, they absolved the officer that was involved in them. And so there is evidence that CRBs protect civilians and police. And having spoken to a number of people about CRBs, I would say there's a healthy amount of complaints that are brought to CRBs that are unfounded. I think that probably is true of complaints that are brought to a police department as well. There are going to be a number of instances where the police are absolved of wrongdoing by a CRB, and I think that is part of their role, and I think that gives them credibility by doing so. It is the 5 or 10% of the concerns that really we need to focus on where police have done something wrong, and there needs to be a transparent, independent review. And so this just points to the fact that both can be true. The CRB can protect the civilians and the police and still be there as an independent investigative body for that 5 or 10%. Next slide, please. In terms of Ithaca's budget for their CRB, these are the budget numbers from 2017 to 2020. You can see that it has escalated over time, which to me is in fact a good fact, because if it wasn't successful, if it wasn't working, they wouldn't be giving it more money. And you can also see the overall police budget for Ithaca, around $12 million. So while I haven't dug into what they spend the money on for their CRB, my guess is training is a significant portion of that budget, training for the people who are sitting on the board, and professional investigators. So to the extent that they employ a professional investigator to support their investigations, that would likely be part of the expense as well. Next slide, please. Okay. Any questions about Ithaca before I move on to Salt Lake City?
No.
Okay. So Salt Lake City is pretty much the polar opposite of Ithaca. It is a huge city, 1.2 million people. Demographically, it is also predominantly white and has 2.6% Black or African American, which is like Ithaca and like Saratoga Springs. They have a city council form of government. They have significantly higher violent crime, though. Their violent crime is 42.8, compared to Saratoga Springs, which is 15.4. So they're dealing with problems on a scale that's not consistent with what we see here. However, I think it's worth showing that a city that has significant violent crime and has a huge population also finds value in a CRB. So that's why I included them. Next slide, please. So the Salt Lake City CRB was created in 2003 by city ordinance. Sorry, just to back up, I didn't mention this with Ithaca. Ithaca was also created by city ordinance. So both these cities went to a public vote about the creation of a CRB. It's an open question whether or not that's something we have to do, but both these cities did that. The board serves a strictly advisory role in assessing citizens' complaints of police misconduct. The qualifications for the Salt Lake City CRB are much more stringent than Ithaca's. There are 14 members. They cite, as a result of the technical knowledge needed for this board, all members are required to complete a detailed training session, which, as I mentioned, is probably part of the cost. Members are also subject to a background check before being appointed. Any person who is 21 or older can serve. However, they cannot have any felony convictions, pending indictments or informations, or misdemeanor criminal convictions, or pending indictments involving violence or moral turpitude. So a much more strict set of qualifications in Salt Lake City in terms of who can serve on their CRB. Next slide, please. Okay, like Ithaca, their mandate is to focus on the excessive use of force and other internal police investigations. They have a unique process, which is a number of days to file a complaint. But they also have the board will automatically review all complaints of excessive force by police officers, which is fairly consistent across CRBs. And then the caveat is in cases where police action is being looked at by the district attorney, attorney general's office, or U.S. Department of Justice. In that case, the administrator will review the case only after these outside agencies are completed. So a CRB is not going to run at the same time as the U.S. Attorney, DOJ, to avoid conflicts. Like Ithaca, all of their reviews are public, as are their findings and recommendations. Next slide, please. And this is just a summary of the ordinance, which I more or less just walked through. They can investigate and audit any cases, including excessive force cases. They make recommendations, and they are advisory to the police chief. As I mentioned, the police chief retains all authority regarding disciplinary action of his officers and training of his officers. Next slide. I didn't find any information on the budget, but I think it's a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison anyway, because their budget for their police is $79 million. So I think if you're going to look for a budget comparison, I'd go with Ithaca. Next slide, please. So the last two slides I have are two sets of quotes, which I thought were valuable to share. The first was Chris Burbank, who was the former Salt Lake City police chief, and I'll just read these. Every police agency in the nation should have some form of civilian review board capability. I was not bound to abide by the CRB recommendation, but if I was going different than what the CRB recommended, I better have some pretty good talking points to support my side of that argument. In an officer-involved shooting, as the police chief, I got a recommendation from the board, I got a recommendation from internal affairs, and then interaction from the district attorney's office. So you actually got three different recommendations. And hearing him talk about that, he saw that as a value, having multiple inputs in terms of how we should proceed with the specific incident. The board became something I relied upon. I valued their opinion and absolutely took their input as one of the most important suggestions I would ever get. Again, I think both the value he saw, but also highlighting that he views it as a suggestion, not as something he's required to follow. A CRB is a crucial part of the interaction between community and police that needs to take place in order to develop the trust. We're experiencing a crisis of legitimacy of law enforcement across the nation. We as law enforcement have ignored that for far too long. And in terms of his priorities moving forward, gathering data, civilian review board, making the data and findings of the civilian review board public. And then finally, Utah House of Representative Paul Ray, who's a Republican. These are his quotes. I included these because CRBs have become something of a divisive political issue. And I think Utah is interesting and Salt Lake City is interesting because it is a fairly conservative place. And this particular representative is obviously Republican and still finds that there's value in a CRB. So I included these. He was responsible for the portion of the Utah law which prohibited CRBs from having actual authority to do anything beyond offering recommendations. So his view was CRBs should not have subpoena power. They should not take the place of a police or a city council in terms of making final recommendations and final decisions. They need to be an input and a recommendation. So he says, I fully support citizen review boards, but they need to stay citizen review boards and not be elected officials or turn everything political. Chief of Police Brown, who's the current chief of police, works well with the review board. They have the ability to investigate, to go in and look at different things and make recommendations. But you have a police chief with a lot of experience, and they really understand law enforcement, and they are making the final call. The ability to independently look at officers' actions is important. It calls into account if an officer gets out of line, and that to me is a great aspect of the CRB. But it does need to be the chief and the city council making that final decision. So, in terms of, I think these are two really good examples of CRBs that the council can learn from and can take elements and potentially use them to develop a CRB here. You can see what has worked in a conservative, larger city. You can see what's worked in a more liberal, smaller city. You can see the budget. But I think more than anything, my takeaway here is that both cities have found significant value in having a CRB for a very long time. And that CRB works very closely with both the community and the police. And I think that's where we need to get to. I think the longer we look at a CRB as a divisive issue that can't support the community and the police, the further we get from solutions. And I think, as both these cities show, there is a middle ground where everyone is supportive of a CRB, and there's real value. So, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Do you want to?
Oh, go ahead. I just want to make sure.
I just wanted to understand, and if you can answer this, I don't know if you can or not, with all the work you've been doing. In our charter, does that need a charter revision? Does that need to go to vote?
So that I can't answer, and I'm hoping Vince at some point will answer that for us. And some of it is you can't answer it because I don't know what we're going to propose.
Okay.
If we propose something minus subpoena power, there's probably more leeway to avoid a charter change. But it sounds to me like if we do go the route of a subpoena power, then that would require a charter change. But again, I may be speaking out of school here.
So are these two communities, did they go to vote with this? They went to public vote?
Both these cities went to public vote, but I don't know anything about their laws.
Okay.
So
all right. Yep. So that's what I wanted to know. I just didn't know if we had to. Vince, do you have any input on that or no? Okay. Yeah, you.
You're Vince, right? He's like, I don't want to be Vince today.
I know.
I thought it was a very good presentation. Are we going to have that available to the council or on the city website or something? I know you're still doing your work. I like that you are finding that they have been helpful to both civilians and police. I like the two examples that you gave us. What are your next steps, sort of? Because we are going to go into a budget season for 2022. I don't know what exactly you're going to recommend, whether or not it may have to go to referendum, whether it's something we may be able to do together as a council with the Commissioner of Public Safety or a future Commissioner of Public Safety. So I'm just wondering what you think your time frame is.
Yeah, so on the recommendation, I'm not going to recommend anything.
Okay.
I think the recommendation was made by the task force.
Okay.
My goal is to give you data points that will help you make a decision on moving forward or not. And so really for the next few city council meetings, my goal was to do more of this.
Okay.
Was to look at other cities and give you more data points and say, this is what's worked. I was thinking the next time I would look at two cities where they didn't work.
Okay.
So that we could say, okay, this worked. This was a show. Right, and so we don't go down the route of show.
Okay.
And ultimately, it's going to be up to you, whether it's through the mediation or whether it's through city council,
right.
to decide what you want to do, but I'm trying to give you enough ammunition.
And we're going to have a few different models to look at also and consider as a result.
The good thing is you can pick and choose.
Right.
It's not like you have to just choose one. There are elements of both that I think are really valuable. But I think that, to me, the good news is there are models that we can follow. We don't have to create the wheel here.
And what was the Ithaca in 1979 they set it up? What did you say?
No, I think it was
21 years.
Where am I getting
like
1979 out of my head from?
Yeah.
1996?
Like
All right.
20 years.
Yeah, whatever. That's a long time, 20 years.
That is a long time.
Yeah, 20 years is a long time.
And to be clear, that doesn't mean these cities don't have problems. You could look up Ithaca and see they have plenty of problems. Salt Lake City has plenty of problems. But they still find value in it.
They found value.
So
yeah.
it isn't like these boards have been a cure-all for, everything going on.
Now,
in
why
cities.
would, if they passed a law that you had to have them, right, in Utah, right, you said Republican senator, somebody passed a law, but they still went to referendum?
You passed a law limiting
the power.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just surprised in the subpoena power because we already had the ethics board in 2006 we gave the ethics board subpoena power, and in 2013 we reaffirmed subpoena power. None of the unions balked at it, and we were never told from we had two different attorneys, and they did not say that conflicted with the charter.
Well, I think that's a question you all have to answer. I think that we need to understand that pretty crystal clear before we can move forward.
And I don't believe they've ever exercised it in the last 15 or 16 years, but
Right. Well,
I'm getting been here a little too long, obviously, but I do remember that was there was a lot of research done on that by because there was a charter review right after that in 2007, and if my memory serves me right, we were told, because the charter has not changed since then, that we did not have to we did not have to change the charter for that. So that's just something because if we do. Then the subpoena power is going to be taken away from the ethics board.
Right. I think Vince can address that.
And we don't have to have an ethics board in this city. Right.
You don't have to have an ethics board in the city, but there is a clear distinction between the subpoena power that's afforded to an ethics board and the potential subpoena power that would be afforded to a civilian review board. And that distinction is that under our current charter, the argument is that power potentially falls under the authority granted to an elected official, whereas the subpoena power for the ethics board does not. There is no conflict there. So the city council does have wider discretion in giving the ethics board subpoena power, because in doing so, you're not taking it from any one commissioner or elected official. But to provide the civilian review board with that power, the question that requires an analysis is whether that is under the current authority of the Commissioner of Public Safety, and the opinion from the initial glance was that it does. So to answer the question earlier about whether we will or will not have to amend the charter, we have to first go down the path of what will or will not be included in a civilian review board, including the scope and authority. Once that's defined, then we can take a look at what's required. And if it does require an amendment to the charter, then fine, we can amend the charter. That would go to a public referendum, and it would be up to the people to decide whether or not we do or do not have a civilian review board.
So if the ethics board comes out and says, John Frank, you did this, and this, there's no power to that, is what you're saying? Because the rest of the city council can say, we don't care what you say?
To your point, Commissioner, I don't believe in the entire existence of our ethics board they have ever executed or exercised that subpoena power. The real question would come, what would happen if an individual who was issued a subpoena did not comply with it? What power does the ethics board really have in enforcing that? It would just never come to a head.
Right. I mean, because the ethics board had been around since the 1970s. It was a 3-member board, and it hadn't convened in like 20 years till 2005. And then, like I said, there was a lot of cities, because there's a county ethics board, I think, in Saratoga County. Most municipalities don't have ethics board. But I just remember, and then we reaffirmed it, I think, when Commissioner Madigan came here. And gave him a little bit more teeth, I think, on some stuff. So I just didn't want to make sure we were skewed the wrong way on that board versus,
no issue. I mean, your explanation seems to make sense. It's not any one of us that oversees the ethics board, so you're not taking a power from an elected official. So you're saying we have more leeway to grant that subpoena power to this board because we did it together as a council.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not in the charter. This is designated in the charter.
Yeah, the charter specifically authorizes the Commissioner of Public Safety with jurisdiction and authority over all matters relating to police discipline. The argument is that would include the investigation and subpoena power. So I'm not saying you can't do it. I've never said you can't do it. The question is, what specifically are you going to do, and then what are the steps to achieve that?
And then are most of the, these two boards that Mr. Gulp showed us have been in existence for quite a while, right? Now with the governor's mandate, there's all the municipalities in the area are probably in the same role we're in. Are most of those non-subpoena powers also? And that's probably a question for the two board members, but I just didn't know where they were.
I don't know, but it is something that a lot of municipalities are looking at right
and
now.
And I know even if they are, we still have the issue because our charter's different.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Vince. I'd like to welcome Kim Galvin to the mic. They don't want to hear you, Kim.
We're not the only ones. Nobody else wants to hear you.
It usually happens during my agenda.
Just my comments on the Civilian Review Board. I do agree, and I looked at this a while ago when we were in the task force mode, that the shall that's used in your charter regarding your Commissioner of Public Safety would make anything other than an advisory CRB require a charter change, which that time to do that for this year has passed. So that would be for the next council. One of you may be here, 1.5. I don't know.
He'll be here.
I'm sorry that I don't have PowerPoints, but I do have a lot of updates for regarding. As you know, Jason's worked on the CRB. We've both worked on the police implementation program. I would just like, and I don't mean to make a big deal of this, but to respond to Commissioner Dalton's comments last week regarding Jason and I watched the meeting, and I just want you all to know that the first time she reached out to me anyway was on July 29th, which was a few days before your August 3rd. I wish she was here to hear this, before your 8-3 meeting. And I told her that she told us we had no transparency and nobody knew what we were doing. I basically said I gave a very detailed update 3 weeks ago on July 6th, and I quote, "I know that both of your updates were comprehensive and thorough. I have just zero recollection of the details and know where to find them." Now, we all know there was a video, so when I pointed out the video webcast, it went downhill from there, and what is she supposed to do? Actually look for something and blah, 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 blah. So I just wanted to let you know that it's not like from the beginning she wanted something and we weren't providing it. It was a last-minute thing, and it was a little confusing, at least to me. With regard to the police department generally, as you're all aware, it's probably their busiest month of the year, and they are short-staffed. They did move their lieutenant to the professional standards that used to be in charge of events, and they had to eliminate an admin services sergeant because to budget. And actually watching the news last night when they were upgrading the assault second charges to homicide, I was a little embarrassed that I'd been badgering them for, when their mission statement's going to be posted on the website and things like that, because I realized they're doing something. But they were responsive. They answered. With regard to transparency and accountability, and I'm going to try to answer in a little more format that Commissioner Dalton may like, number 5 on the recommendations. I failed to mention last time that a good part of transparency goes to Section 50A that was passed, which is access to the police records. It's important to note, though, that the information is released at the discretion of the labor, the city attorney, and the district attorney's office. So if anybody's wondering where that information is, those are the people in charge. With regard to transparency, again, all of the policies have been posted on the website since our task force was in effect. Let's see what we have. Accreditation, number 7 on the list. It usually takes 1.5 to 2.5 years to actually become fully accredited. They have one lieutenant that has completed the accreditation manager training. That person is working on it, but it's only a part-time position, as he or she, I'm not sure which, also has oversight of half the patrol division. So that is going to take a while. The revised mission statement will be up in September. That is an update. Number 9 and number 11, reallocation funds for ICAT training, integrating communication assessment and tactics training. There are no funds to reallocate for this as far as the police department is concerned. They've reached out for estimates. An estimate is about $20,000 to continue that training. Increased focus on de-escalation, number 10. I gave you an update on the training that they were trained already this year, every officer again, and they've been doing it for 10 years. I know that there is a request in for additional training for you right now. That would include additional de-escalation training from a certified provider, which means the police officers would have to be tested on that. That training regimen of the 4 training modules would be, I think, $8,500, and that rests with you now to consider. Lexipol is still the policy format document. An RFP would have to be let when that contract is up. I think it's up at the end of this year. So in order to do that, that would have to go through the whole RFP process as we've talked about. And let's see. Posted online. The annual report, number 17, that's provided in February 2022. The use of force policies and data are, if you remember last time I talked about the committee that was reviewing all of the policies individually, the 5-member committee. They have been trained again. The police department has written a new use of force reporting system from scratch, and they are now in the process of developing code tables to be able to run reports to provide a more transparent look at what is involved and who is involved and what were the outcomes of those things. And they're going to be testing it as soon as they can, and they expect it to be live in October. Number 26, early intervention system. They do train the officers every year, regardless of use of force, defensive tactics, firearms, taser, force on force. There was 10 reportable uses of force, New York State reportable uses of force last year. Tasers, number 28 through 30. The task force recommended data analytics and policy surrounding tasers. Taser training continues to get done on a yearly basis and certification. When asked for data analytics, there is some confusion there. 2021, there's been no taser deployments to date. 2020, there was 1. 2019, there was 5. 2018, there was 1. 2017, there was 1. And 2016, there was 3. So they've deployed their tasers 11 times in 6 years. But as requested by the task force and the council, they are looking at the data to see if there's any similarities or commonalities across those uses. Immigration policy review, the chief has indicated he will have something in late September. Data analytics, we talked last time about how, they don't have a full-time IT person that works for them, and a lot of these data analytics statistics are run by the state of New York. They have reached out to tracks and CADs and all of these various things to see if they can get the reports run at the state level and provided to the city instead of trying to develop that all on their own, because they don't have money for that. And database manager, I think we've outlined why they need some sort of data analytics person. The revised complaint form is up. I know that the police force is also working with the IT department and the finance department to create a new police-only website. They believe that the website will be more transparent. People will be able to use it more easily. Information will be more readily available to those that are looking for it. And now that's the update with regard to that. My last set of statements is part of the implementation committee and as a citizen of Saratoga for my life. And I just wanted to comment on the mediation and bring that into where we are on the funding and the task force elements and things like that. I would just like to say that I would like the people to know that when Commissioner Madigan talked about costs, that you don't need an RFP let if the amount of the cost is $30,000 or below. And you do need one if it's $30,000. And I wanted to know that I listened to Mr. Figueroa, and I heard him, and I agree with him. I heard him talk about permit costs for community-centered events like Narcan training, and I agree that when you talk, permit costs for things like that should be something. And I reached out to the police department to see if they were all certified, because Narcan had never come up in my conversations with them, and they all had certification. They've all been using it for 4 years, and they used it 18 times last year. That seemed like a big number to me, but unfortunately it's true. And I also heard Mr. Figueroa say, and I'm quoting, took me a minute, "We are honestly not happy about taking funding away from our city to deal with mediation. Maybe we can figure something out. You have my phone number, and we are available." I would just urge the council that the money that would be spent on mediation may be better utilized. This is from a task force implementation and a citizen standard, and building up the real entities that have the problem with each other, the police force and Mr. Figueroa's group, and trying to get the training at such where they're starting to communicate better. I don't know how maybe they could take up the roundtable approach without official mediators and work through maybe Darryl Mount's death, work through the permits that they're looking for the community-centered events. Because in my opinion, and I don't know if I'm correct in this, but I'm assuming the mediation is non-binding mediation, and ultimately 3.5 of you probably won't be here next year. So it would seem to me that the use of those funds with a direct infusion to some of the citizen groups and the police department might go a long way. That's it.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? Yeah, I thought that was a great presentation. Thank you. I appreciate these updates. To clarify, we don't need to do an RFP if it's under $30,000. And even if something is under $30,000, we still require RFQs, which are requests for quotes. So my goal here will be to, and I'll have an update on my agenda on the mediation process. I have one more firm to interview, is to send out an RFQ and see what comes back and see what it's going to cost. And this is not singularly my decision. This would also be the council's decision if we're going to spend this kind of money. I do think, though, my sense is that there's value in mediation and that we do need help facilitating some communication. We need some help communicating together. And so, and I think it's through mediation and maybe a combination of firms and techniques. But I think it could be money well spent. And that doesn't mean there isn't going to be money for these other things that I agree with you. I think if we have a community coming forward in our Congress Park, training people how to use Narcan, I personally was hoping somebody would bring a waiver for that fee for you to provide that at Congress Park. That is a good public service and benefit. It does open us up to a host of who else might want to do something similar. But that was a very good community service, something maybe a lot of us should learn how to do. But just so we're clear, we're not necessarily talking about spending $30,000 because we can. I'm certainly hopeful that that's going to come in a lot lower than $30,000 for mediation services.
Right, and I thought that's what I said, under 30,000, and you also mentioned that you might need 2 or whatever. So as I was looking at the costs, I thought Mr. Figueroa and his people would probably prefer a direct infusion of permit waivers, Narcan trainings, back-to-school supplies, things like that, and train the police department and give them their training so that they the two groups in question seem to communicate better. So that was my only thought.
It's a good thought. I don't think it's an either or, though. I'm hopeful that mediation will work well because we are clearly having a difficult time. This is not a conducive environment for talking and understanding each other.
But none of you you're not running again?
Well, I mean, that's a good question for candidates, too. I am trying to put a process in place that, frankly, I believe needs to be ongoing. And I'm not going to be here in January. So,
And this isn't going to take 4 months to get it started. At least we don't want to punt this to the next council. We want to get started on this earlier than later. And some of our...
I understand that, but then you're leaving. You are too.
I think we all understand that. And I think if... whoever is going to replace us, we would probably bring them into the fold early on so they would know what's going on. But I think to just ignore, not do anything to not at least push, because both sides have been asking for mediation.
Right. I'm not saying mediation isn't helpful. I'm just echoing what he said at the last council meeting, that he doesn't want to spend the money either, and that he's willing to talk. Right. So I thought that maybe you could just try to talk to him first.
No, and my deputy did speak with him, because our fee is only like $50. Most of it came out of public safety, the higher fee, or public works. It wasn't our department, but the basic fee we agreed that we should try to get that.
Okay.
That way. Yep. Also, some of our purchasing policies, I don't know exactly what it is on this end, is more restrictive than New York State. Yeah. So our purchasing policy, pretty much across the board, is much more restrictive than New York State numbers. So.
Okay. Any other questions on what the police department is doing?
No, I'm good. That was great. Thank you.
All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. Question?
There was an offer to the task force. Captain Morley at the Sheriff's Department keeps very...
Wait, are you talking to Kim Galvin? Okay, okay. I know.
That's what I thought.
I'm just loud. They keep very detailed statistics on the distribution of Narcan and the use of it outside of the police department as well. And if you would like, I'm sure that Supervisor Feature myself would assist in getting those statistics outside of that.
Cool.
You text to a number and they deliver Narcan curbside for people that need it out in the community. So I thought things like that might be able to be explored and things like that.
It's a great idea. All right. Any other comments?
No.
Yeah, I just want to. Is this mic on?
It's your turn.
Yeah, I want to thank Kim and Justin both. I learned a lot. I mean, just from that little presentation. Again, it's going to be something that I think the next city council probably is going to have to make the decision on. I definitely keeping an open mind, and I definitely want to talk with you people in regards to, what it is that we can do to kind of calm the water here a little bit, and whatever it takes. I think I can. You can sit down with me. My door's open. Contact me. I really mean that, and I really want to have a serious discussion, with any one of you who actually wants to come in and talk to me. And maybe we can't agree on everything, and we can agree on something, but I think as you well know, it needs communication to really make it all work. And I personally think, from my age, and living in the city all my life, that we can come to some kind of an agreement on what we can do to make this thing work for everybody. And again, it was a great presentation, and hopefully you will get in touch with me and we will talk. Thank you.
How old are you? No, I'm only kidding. Okay, so let's move on to my next item. Discussion and vote approval of HUD mandated changes to template agreement for economic development revolving loan program. The Community Development Department requests the council to approve the HUD required changes to our template loan agreement for economic development revolving loan program. The minor amendments bring this template into agreement into compliance. I move that the City Council authorize the approval of HUD mandated changes to template agreement for economic development revolving loan program. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote designation of community development planner as fair housing officer as a Section 3 coordinator. Any recipient of the CDBG funds are subject to compliance with fair housing. A fair housing officer must be identified. Any CDBG grant award to a municipality that exceeds $200,000 is subject to Section 3 compliance, and the recipient must identify a Section 3 coordinator. Lindsay Connors, a community development planner, has been carrying out all duties associated with these designations in her current role. We would like to formalize her designation as a City Fair Housing Officer and Section 3 coordinator. I move that the City Council authorize the designation of the Community Development Planner as a Fair Housing Officer and Section 3 Coordinator. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote Naval History and Heritage Command ongoing loan agreement. And I'll ask Vince just to say a few words on this.
Thank you, Mayor. We briefly discussed this yesterday at pre-agenda. This is an artifact on loan from the Naval History and Heritage Command Center commemorating the USS Saratoga. It's currently on display on the exterior of the city center, and we've had this plaque for a number of years. The agreement before you tonight is just to continue that loan for an additional 3-year period.
Thank you. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the Naval History and Heritage Command ongoing loan agreement. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote mayor to sign a letter of support for Zim Smith Trail. The Saratoga County Planning Department is submitting an application for funding under the 2021 New York State DOT TAP program to support the design and construction of the Zim Smith Trail. The project will fill critical gaps in the county's trail system and attract trail users to many points of interest along the trail, including business districts, historic sites, heritage areas, and recreational sites, providing much-needed economic boost to the region. This project is the first phase of a larger regional project that is envisioned to extend the Zim Smith Trail to the Saratoga Spa State Park. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Zim Smith Trail. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is discussion and vote approve correction to PO number 171583 for Geyser Road Trail projects. I am submitting a number of corrections to the PO 171583 related to GPI contract for Geyser Road Trail. The specific invoices are attached to this agenda item and need to be removed from the PO 171583. What we are voting to do is to correct the processing of this PO. We have reviewed these changes with Christine Gilmet Brown in finance and Stephanie Richards in accounts, and we thank them for their assistance. I move that the City Council approve the correction to PO number 171583 for Geyser Road Trail project. This is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. My next item is an appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And tonight I am appointing John S. Daly for the term of August 17, 2021 to August 17, 2023 to serve as an alternate on the Zoning Board of Appeals. John currently serves as a government relations representative for the New York State School Boards Association. He was previously Saratoga Springs Deputy Commissioner of Public Safety from 2018 to 2020 and a state legislative staff member. He holds a law degree from Albany Law, MBA from Union College, and a BS from Siena. And I believe that he's here tonight. Do you want to say a few words, John? I never knew you to be a loss of words.
I've never had that problem. Mayor, council, everybody, it's great to see you all tonight, see you in person. It's great to be back in this room. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to serve, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Congratulations.
I think John's a familiar face, and I think he'll do a good job.
Yeah, I think he will. So I just need you to connect with my assistant to get your oath signed.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Nice to see you. My next item is an announcement, UDO workshops. The third of the 4 UDO workshops was held earlier today. Materials and video of the recording workshops can be found on the city website. The next UDO workshop will be held Tuesday, August 24th at 3 p.m. here in the council room. Like others, it will be live streamed and recorded. And with that, that concludes my agenda. On to accounts, Commissioner Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item is discussion and vote secret evaluation for the Saratoga Regional.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll say it. No, okay. Saratoga YMCA. I'm going to have the City Attorney, Vince Dianaris, read each question. It's the Part 2 short form. He will give the proposed answer. You do have attached to the agenda a non-filled out one. And then if you have questions, since it's a short form, just ask questions to Vince as he goes through that. So if you could go start it out for him, it'd be great.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. And this is, as he indicated, the short form. 11 questions. I'm going to read the question and then the proposed answer. And if you have any issues or concerns, just please interrupt me at any time. But for question number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public-private water supplies? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Or B, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? And the proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? Example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? Proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. Number 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? The proposed answer is no, or small impact may occur. And number 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? And the proposed answer to that is no, or small impact may occur. Commissioner?
So before I make a motion to issue a negative declaration, is there any questions for Vince on any of those 11?
No.
Pretty straightforward, I think.
Yep.
And just keep in mind, it's a text amendment. There's no proposed project pending before any of the boards.
Right. Thank you, Vince. I appreciate that. So, therefore, I move this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore, the environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, a negative declaration will be issued, and that's in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vince. The second item is just going to be the discussion and vote to approve zoning for the text amendment for Saratoga Regional YMCA. Therefore, I move for the City Council to approve the zoning text amendment proposed by the Saratoga Regional YMCA and as included with this agenda, and that's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
If I may?
Sure.
Just for purposes of the record and to make it clear, there is one parcel identified that is being removed from inclusion in the PUD. This was discussed at the pre-agenda yesterday. It was also discussed 2 weeks ago at the public hearing, but for the record, I just want to indicate that that is parcel 178.33-1-17 is being removed from the proposed PUD.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. The third item is award of bid professional hydrogeological and construction service Geyser Road Well Number 7 to CT Mail. Upon the recommendation of the Department of Public Works, I move to award the bid for professional hydrogeological and construction service for the Geyser Crest Well Number 7 to CT Mail for an amount not to exceed $59,995. It's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. The fourth and last item is discussion and vote authorization for Mayor to sign contract with Constellation Energy for electric rates. This item was discussed during the client attorney meeting after the pre-agenda yesterday. Therefore, I move to authorize the Mayor to sign a contract with Constellation New Energy, Inc. for electrical services for the term starting on or about September 9th, 2021 through on or about September 27th, 2022 at a rate of 0.00165 kilowatt hours. And that's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to Finance, Commissioner Madigan.
Thank you, Mayor. So I get to, okay. First item on my agenda is an update mediation and public advocacy groups, with public advocacy groups. So I've completed a lot of substantial research into various mediation, meeting facilitation organizations. I have met with 4, and I plan to meet with the 5th on Thursday. The slight delay we're having is this meeting with this 5th firm that I do want to have, but that will wrap up this Thursday. When all of these are completed, the recordings of each meeting will be made available on the city website under latest information, so you'll be able to find that from the main page. After I complete that part of the process, essentially after I finish the 5th interview, I will release a request for quotes asking for a written description of their services that are available as well as estimated costs. I will then share my preferred options with interested council members as well as public advocacy groups for comment and choose those that are the best fit for the most reasonable cost. We are subjected to procurement issues, so we are going through that process. I cannot allow an outside group to necessarily select for the council, but I hope that there will be some trust here by putting these videos out. You can see the interviews. We're asking the same questions to every single firm. I actually like where we're headed, I think, and I'm hoping the public will like that too. But we do have to send out these requests for quotes. As was stated earlier, if you were here, our purchasing guidelines say as long as the quotes come in under $30,000, we do not have to do an RFP. It is my anticipation that these will not come in over $30,000 for the process that I would like to start to begin by mid-September of this year. So I'm in process, and I think once this 5th interview takes place, we will start to see this process move along more quickly. And again, as I said, hoping to have some meeting facilitation starting by mid-September. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Item number 2 is an update on the 2022 budget and city finances. 2022 requested budgets were due on August 10th. All departments have cooperated reasonably well with this deadline, and I thank each of you. We have entered and compiled the information into Munis, our financial management system. Oh, God, I'm dying. And returned each of these, the proofs of your requested budget, back to each department for review. You will notice the amounts for hospitalization, insurance, vision insurance, retirement contributions, unemployment, and other benefits have been added. These are estimates, as final rates are not available. Each includes the cost of new hires included in your requests. New hires defines this 2022 budget season. The total number of requests for new hires was 47. 45 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. These add a total of approximately $4.6 million to the 2022 budget expenses. Wages make up the other $2.6 million. Social Security and benefits, hospitalization, vision, and retirement costs an additional $2 million. The estimated total amount of the 2022 requested general operating fund is about $57.65 million. While 2021 revenues continue to improve and 2022 projections are very strong, matching $57.65 million in expenses remains beyond our current financial outlook. I would also like to take this opportunity to repeat that this year I will not be recommending an override to property tax cap. And I believe, although it has not been confirmed to me, that we're looking at no more than 1% increase. So it's 2% property tax cap or the cost of living, whichever is lower, but I'm still working on getting that overall confirmed. So, as in every budget season, the council will have to define priorities and make decisions. This administration has years of expertise and experience, so setting the 2022 budget that keeps the city safe and well-serviced for all its citizens, visitors, and taxpayers is what we will be doing. Thank you very much. There's our budget update. Item number 3 is a discussion and vote authorization for the mayor to sign agreement with Look TV for video services. This agreement will bring Look TV in to record city council meetings. Look TV is able to pan the entire room, capturing attendees, presentations, as well as the council. The agreement runs from September through December, covering all regular city council meetings for a cost of $1,000 a month, and allows additional meetings as agreed to for an amount not to exceed $500 per meeting. This agreement is not in compliance with the city's purchasing policy. We required a swift solution and chose the single company that knows our needs and has the equipment to address them. In addition, the vendor's insurance does not quite meet our usual requirements. But as you know, Look TV has been recording our meetings for many, many years. We stopped briefly while we were in COVID, and it's been indicated to me that we would like to see them back recording live meetings. So I have been trying to move this along. I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with Look TV for video services as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a discussion and vote budget transfers payroll. Lines 1 through 3 transfer among various recreation clinics payroll budget lines in the amount of $2,146.50. Lines 4 through 5 transfer the appropriation for CHIPS rubble to the appropriation for CHIPS labor in the amount of $75,000. I move that the City Council approve the budget transfers payroll as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
For a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Item number 5 is a discussion and vote budget amendments payroll. Lines 1 through 9 amend to bring $27,685 from clinic program fees into the budget to cover various clinic payroll and Social Security expenses. I move that the City Council approve the budget amendments payroll as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
For a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Item number 6 is a discussion and vote budget transfers contingency. Lines 1 through 2 transferred to professional services in the finance department to cover the cost of Look TV agreement for video recording services in the amount of $6,000. Prior to this transfer, this appropriation, the contingency line, held $191,651.70. Subsequent to this transfer, there will remain $185,651.70. And that is required by the city charter to allow the council to know when we move something from contingency how much money was there before and how much money is there after. I move that the City Council approve the budget transfers contingency as included with the agenda. This is a motion.
For a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, and that completes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to Public Works, Commissioner Scirocco.
Thank you, Mayor. My first item is discussion and vote. This is authorization for the mayor to sign a contract with CT Mail Engineering, Surveying, Architecture, Landscape Architecture, and Geology, DPC, for professional hydrogeological and construction services for Geyser Crest Well Number 7. Under RFP 2021-14, DPW requested hydrogeological and engineering services related to the rehabilitation of Geyser Crest Well Number 7. The Geyser Crest Well system represents a critical water supply source for the city's southwest neighborhoods, in addition to supplementing the Excelsior Avenue treatment plant. We believe this well can yield more water. CT Mail engineers will investigate the current well for possibly of a greater yield. They have sufficient project experience with well projects in many communities around the capital region. The scope of work includes the investigation, design, and construction phase services. The actual construction of well number 7 improvements will be performed by a well drilling contractor under a separate RFP. Therefore, I move for approval for Mayor to sign the contract with CT Mail Engineering, Surveying, Architecture, Landscape Architecture, and Geology DPC for professional hydrogeological and construction services for Geyser Crest well number 7 in the amount of $59,995, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes.
And Mayor, I'd like to add an item to my agenda. This is discussion and vote approval to adopt the mask resolution.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter passes. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This item is discussion and vote approval to adopt a mask resolution. As we know, COVID continues to disrupt the routines of our daily lives. With a recent uptick in cases reported in Saratoga County and advisement from Saratoga County Public Health, we've decided to work together and take proactive steps toward limiting COVID exposure and combat the spread of the virus. This resolution requires that everyone wear masks regardless of their vaccination status while conducting city business in city buildings, facilities, and at indoor city-sponsored events. Employees, visitors, and residents will have confidence that everyone they encounter indoors will be wearing a mask to limit the possible exposure to COVID. For outdoor city events, the council recommends wearing a mask in crowded settings where social distancing is not possible. Hopefully, this will be a temporary measure to assist with keeping everyone healthy and safe while interacting on city business. I don't know if you want me to read the resolution, but basically it says exactly what I said here. And I think, Mayor, we discussed that you have a
I have just a slight amendment to this.
Okay, let me hear what yours is. And I'm trying to pull it up on my computer because we don't have it on the agenda.
So
on my phone.
This is about recreation. So I talked to John Hurleman. He goes, well, we went through this before, and we had our mask policy was face masks are to be worn appropriately over the nose and mouth at all times while indoors at the recreation facilities unless players are unable to tolerate a face covering for the physical activity, including practicing and playing, provided, however, that coaches, trainers, and other individuals who are not directly engaged in the physical activity are required to wear the face covering. Upon leaving the activity area for any reason, a face mask must be appropriately worn. And this, we have camp tomorrow morning, so if we could start this institution maybe on Monday, because the campers are going to come in, you have 5-year-olds coming in, and we're going to be throwing a mask on them. It's just not going to go over well. So that would be my request, to add that and to add a start time of the Monday, August 23rd. Because camp is over Friday. Or you can start it Saturday.
You mean just for rec, though, right? Because I want to see the masks start tomorrow for...
Well, we could say just for recreation.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
City
mind
buildings.
adding that just for recreation.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we're missing a line saying that for all public-facing employees, they must wear a mask, basically when they are public-facing. I don't really see that here. So
What'd you say?
when you are if you're an employee of the city who has to deal with the public, you should have a mask on.
Yeah, I think that's what.
I think that's what the resolution says.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Well, we could add that just when you're public facing, events. Can you help us with that?
The resolution makes clear that all employees and visitors in any city-owned building facility are required to wear a mask. Yeah. The only thing that was tweaked was with regard to the requirement that was being contemplated for those having to wear masks outdoors. And that was one that Commissioner included that is at this time consistent with guidelines that we've received, remains just a recommendation. But I do think that the conversation will continue with the Department of Rec particularly with regard to individuals participating in sporting events, fall sports.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that everyone understands the implications if we're going to require mask wearing outdoors.
Well, I think if you are outside and you are public facing, you should have a mask on. If you are involved with the public and you're outside, you should have a mask on. I mean,
I think we're going to be progressing in that direction.
We'll progress to that, but right now we're just doing
resolution is one more step. Last week at the UDO workshop, you passed a resolution recommending masks. 7 days later, you've got another resolution mandating masks for indoors. Next week we will continue this. This is a moving target.
It is, yeah.
So do you want to include that?
I would like to include this. I'll give it to you. Is that everybody okay with that?
Oh yeah, I'm
okay.
fine with
Thank
that.
you. And
include
a start
that in
date for recreation.
in the resolution.
Yeah. Just add a paragraph on the bottom. All right. So
yeah, I'm hearing that.
We could do. You could add that sentence. It doesn't matter, Vince. Right? I mean,
I think it should be added.
Okay.
I do.
So.
All public-facing employees should, when you're facing the public, should be wearing a mask. That's for police, fire, DPW, whatever. Do what you want. But I know that if I'm public-facing with somebody outside in a work environment, though, I should be masked.
If you want, that's what you want. I'll
I'm
put it
writing
in there.
it.
I mean,
Just give me a second.
I don't know who's going to enforce that, but I mean, it's only good as enforcement. At least if it's in the building,
It's only gonna be
we can pretty much enforce it.
I understand that.
So if you want to be the enforcer on that one,
I wanna. I'll take
good
one
with
of your
that.
cars. I'll drive around.
Okay, so is this what you want? All public employees who interface with the public,
sounds like a plan.
a mask must be worn.
I think so. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll include that. We'll include
that
this
someplace
in there. So
Yeah. All right. So, are we good? It's a moving target. It's going to change next time we get together. So okay.
Therefore,
go ahead.
So therefore, I'll just make a motion to I move for the council to approve to adopt the mask resolution with the friendly amendment from
Thank you.
from the mayor.
Thank you.
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The matter passes.
Thank you, and that concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner. On to public safety, and Commissioner Dalton isn't in attendance, so I will just read her item. She has one item to set a public hearing to amend the capital program and capital budget for the Fire EMS Station 3 project number 1217, and that would be at the next meeting, and that would be at 6:55.
Yes, we also have your capital program.
I think we're good. Thank you. I don't know. Are you good, Eileen? Okay. All right, good. All right, let's go on to the Supervisor Beach.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple items for my agenda. First on my agenda is just to talk about the government review and efficiency update. We had two resolutions one resolution on our county meeting today to update our budget policy. One was to revise the capital program, to make a few changes on setting up a committee and changing the authority of that committee to set the capital program. Additionally, through our research in this, we found that the county actually needs to pass a local law to include our capital program in our budget each year. We looked back into our history and found that we had not passed a local law to do that. So in September, retroactively, we're going to pass a local law to include our capital program in our budget process. But we need the policy now because we're starting to get into our budget process now. So we did pass it via resolution today, and we'll continue to go forward with a local law next month. Additionally, we established a revised policy for supported outside agencies and not-for-profit organizations to add an annual review, an annual process for supported outside agencies and not-for-profits to receive funding from the county during our budget process, with the flexibility of the Board of Supervisors and Law and Finance Committee and how those agencies are supported with funding. Both passed unanimously at the Board of Supervisors today at our meeting. Second is just a quick update on the census numbers for Saratoga County. This week it has been released, the numbers for Saratoga County and our various towns and cities. Saratoga County had a very large population growth among counties in New York State. It was one of the few counties in New York State with growth. Nearly 2/3 of New York State counties lost population over the last 10 years based on the census early reports. And just to get into the county a little bit, within the county, the towns of Corinth, Day, Galway, Hadley, Mechanicville, and Waterford lost population over the last 10 years. All the rest of the towns gained population over the last 10 years. And among those towns, the town of Ballston had the largest population growth by percentage at 11%. And Half Moon had the largest population growth by number, which was approximately 4,000 residents. They did break the current 25,000 population limit threshold for 2 supervisors. So if we don't change anything in our current law, the town of Half Moon will get 2 supervisors like the city of Saratoga Springs has and the town of Clifton Park. As you know, the county has a weighted vote by town. And again, while the city grew overall over the last 10 years, we gained, I think, about 3,000 residents or so. Our weighted vote at the county is essentially the same. So everybody else grew just as much as we grew. And so we do have to pass a local law at the county to establish our weighted vote for starting next year. And we'll see where that goes as far as the town of Half Moon and setting the threshold for 2 supervisors and what that number will be. Over the years, the county has always increased that number, which has kept the city of Saratoga Springs with 2 supervisors and the town of Clifton Park with 2 supervisors. So we'll see where that goes this year among our debate on the county weighted vote. But I'll keep you posted as we go forward. And last on my agenda, although I do have one extra item, is the Saratoga Casino Hotel Foundation. We do this annually. It was created as part of the laws that created the Saratoga Casino Hotel, the Racino. And what that is we established a not-for-profit organization to help with the impacts of gambling and social impacts of potentially downward impacts of gambling on our community. So we do a grant program every year. It's funded mainly by the Saratoga Casino Hotel and the Saratoga Harness Horsepersons Association. We usually get about $30,000 each year, which we got this year. We did not have a grant program last year because of the pandemic and the loss of revenue that the casino was facing based on having no operation. So the mayor is part of that committee, as well as 2 supervisors, Skip Carlson from the Casino Hotel, the head of the Harness Horsepersons Association, again, myself, and chairman of our board, Todd Kuzniers. We received 36 agencies who applied for grant funding. Their total request amounts were $122,470. So there was definitely a lot of interest this year in the grant program. We did award 21 of those organizations with grants totaling $24,000. And so it was a great process. I won't go through every single agency that received money, but many of them were in the city and throughout the county. And again, it was a great program to go through and very good to do that. We normally have an event to honor our recipients at the Racino, but due to the increase of COVID spread in our county, as well as just be honest, the difficulty of getting help for the casino with our current issues with labor, it was going to be difficult for us to hold an event that would be successful. So we're going to send our checks and contact all of the organizations within the next week or so from the county and get those awards out. So again, a great program to do and a good meeting and a good organization overall. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to say anything, but
you said it all.
I'll open the floor to you if you'd like.
I'm fine. No, it's good. It was a good process. It was hard. You know, you had all those people asking for,
and they're all needy, and they all have needs, and they're all very appropriate applications. So, and I just want to add one quick item, just as an update. I've been reporting on this over the past few meetings. DPW issue: Saratoga County paved Geyser Road over the weekend, and they milled it on Thursday and Friday, and they paved it yesterday. They did a great job. They got it done really quickly. Apologize for any traffic delays you might have had over there the last couple of days, but we tried to get it done very fast. It is track season, and the county was aware of that and trying to get it done as fast as possible. So it looks great out there. They still have to do the striping and whatnot, but great job by the county crew out there, and it was good to see all the trucks. And I think it was 92 degrees out there on Thursday, so we appreciate all their dedication and cooperation with the city to get this done, and our DPW as well. So just wanted to make that note. But the road is open and looking good at this point. So
you did a nice job.
Thank you.
You did a real nice job.
That's it for my agenda.
Thank you. Supervisor Gaston.
Thank you. The first item on my agenda is COVID-19 and public health update. And I'll start it by saying, first, thank you for allowing me to make the comment about Narcan. The county has certainly worked in that area, and Captain Morley particularly. And I know as the opioid settlements are coming out, one of the things that the county has been in discussions with both our mental health director and the commissioner of health is expanding those services in the Second Chance program. So any assistance that the city would like or any additional engagement, I look forward to helping with that as a part of public health. Our COVID numbers do continue to rise slightly. While our positivity rate over 7 days has come down slightly, we are seeing more individuals in the hospital. To the extent so far, we've had 3 fully vaccinated individuals die as a result of COVID-related illness. All of those individuals, my understanding, were older with comorbidities. And may have been some of the individuals who are now eligible for a 3rd dose. It is believed that many individuals with immunocompromised systems did not have significant immune response to the first 2 doses and are now eligible for a 3rd dose. If you believe that you may be one of those persons, you should reach out to your individual provider or the county public health department, which is providing those doses as needed and appropriate as determined by your provider. Additionally, we do believe that 3rd doses will be indicated for all persons in the near future. And as soon as that happens, public health will be ready to assist. They're planning already. We do not anticipate the state to build up any more vaccine pods. So this is going to be a bumpy ride, but our public health department is ready for it and ready to go. I do want to give my sincere gratitude to this council for the step that you just took, particularly with the mask mandate. Unfortunately, I have been unsuccessful in pushing for that at the county. In fact, at today's county board meeting, only approximately 5 individuals total of supervisors and county staff were wearing masks during our meeting, which contained a much larger number than in this room right here. I believe that the city is setting forth an appropriate example of leadership, and I appreciate that. I think it makes our community safer, and it lets people know, sets an example of what we should all do, and I appreciate that. I think that is also evident in our COVID numbers, in that Saratoga Springs is not having quite the increases that we were earlier. Obviously, as having the population and tourists, we do have a higher number than many other communities, but it's not quite the same differential that it was earlier in the pandemic. So I think it's extremely important that I share how grateful I am that the City Council has taken that step. And I appreciate you bringing that forward, Commissioner Saratoga. Additionally, as a last comment, because it is mental health is a part of public health, as we approach the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and as events are currently unfolding in Afghanistan, Saratoga County has one of the highest proportions of veterans in New York State. And a number of veterans have indicated that they are having trouble with some of the issues that are taking place right now. Our County Veteran Service Agency stands by to assist. In addition, Saratoga County is a Hidden Heroes community, which is designed to provide additional supports to both veterans and their caregivers. Please, if you need any assistance, if you are either a veteran, a currently serving military member, or a family member, please do not hesitate to reach out. It can be a very difficult situation, and we want to make sure that we keep all of our people safe. So thank you. That concludes the first item on my agenda. Any questions? The second item on my agenda, I just ended happy news. I'm actually going to pull the third item if that's okay. Second item, happy news. The Women in Government Leadership Program today graduated 10 young women from the program who completed the program through the Sir Optimist. They met many of our county department heads, did a lot of work learning about county government, found out it's not quite as boring as some people think, and some parts aren't as exciting as you think. They were all really receptive. It was a really great response, and I'm looking forward to getting all of their feedback. This was a pilot program, and the New York State Association of Counties is looking forward to reviewing the feedback as well to determine how we can expand it to a statewide program. So I was delighted to be part of that pilot and help initiating it, and look forward to expanding it so that we can get as many women in county government as there are in our city government. That concludes my agenda.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Most cybersecurity firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.